Till they weren't anymore. And there was a very acrimonious split between those two men where Johnny Santos, if you let Matt Awesome tell it, turned his back on Matt Awesome. If you let Johnny Santos tell it, he had to move on to other things, right? But these two men continued on their careers. Johnny Santos, a great singles competitor, also a member of ODIFC, Only Dominicans in First Class, alongside Sebastian Cage and Big Cuzzo, a member of Hispanos Unidos as well over at Pro Wrestling Magic. So he's done a lot of great things on his own. Matt Awesome as well has gone on to be a great singles competitor, as well as a tag team with Jarrett Diaz as the Bodega Boys. But for the first time in 4 years, Johnny Santos and Matt Awesome are putting their past behind them and teaming up one more time to deal with the common denominator of Jay Bougie. Jay Bougie interfered in Team Pegao versus Team Kong Kong's match at April at our last event, Lo Que Paso Paso, the battle for Latin rice supremacy. And everybody knows, if you're Puerto Rican or you're Dominican, the battle of Pegao and Kong Kong has been one that has raged on for years. And we were looking to come to a definitive conclusion in April, and Jay Bougie stuck his nose into a match he had no business in. And Johnny Santos basically told them all about himself. What are you doing here? I don't want your help. And he told them, hey, I hit him with a chair, pin Matt Awesome, get this thing over with. And Johnny's like, that's not how we do things. I don't need your help. And those two got into it. So I don't know how, but Matt and Johnny found a way to put all their little issues aside for one night. And for one night only, we will get a reunion of You're Awesome for the first time in 4 years when they take on the Killionaires Club. And, Bougie, looking to get a huge victory. Obviously, the NWA wants their champion walking out of this match, safe, sound. He's got a lot, to show out as well as the NWA Midwest champion. Big moves for Johnny Santos and Matt Awesome. Imagine getting that victory over the reigning defending NWA Midwest champion. Getting that victory over a man in Jay Bougie who has made a mark in MLW, has made a mark in companies like ETU, right? It's be a big moment for Matt and Johnny. But I think the big question is going to be, can they coexist? It's been a long time. And it's not always like riding a bike.
Right. I guess everybody will have to find out this Friday, September 13th, in the Boogie Down Bronx at St. Helena's Catholic Church. Make sure everybody goes and gets their tickets. And if they can't get their tickets online, they can just show up at the door, right?
This is right. Tickets online. Sales will close at 7 o'clock when the doors open on Friday. They are live on Eventbrite. If you go to wearewrestling.eventbrite.com, you can click into our event tab for our tickets. You can also find the link in our bio on Instagram and on Twitter. You can easily click in and buy your tickets there. And as Papa Denk said, you can buy them at the door starting at 7 o'clock, 7:01 p.m. Friday night. Tickets will be available at the door. And the only tickets you have to buy at the door, kids tickets, because if they're under 13 years old, half price, only $15 to come to the show. If you have a kid under 5 years old, absolutely free.
Wow, that is great, man. Good stuff. All right, let's go to the next match. Prince Ahmed versus Azriel. Oh, my gosh.
Listen, Papa Denk, back in February at Don't Call It a Comeback, our first show of the 2024 year, these two men went to battle for the first time ever in what was an instantaneous classic that ended in a time limit draw, to the point where the crowd at St. Helena's was chanting for 5 more minutes. That's how good these two men were going at it. And unfortunately, we couldn't give them 5 more minutes in February. But we struck a deal with Azriel and Prince Ahmed. And instead of just giving them 5 more minutes, we decided, why don't we do it one more time? Let's get a definitive winner. So this Friday, it will be Prince Ahmed versus Azriel for the second time ever. And both of these men with a chip on their shoulder with something to prove. Azriel, the 20-year veteran, the Ring of Honor original.
Right.
To him, and he said it himself, no matter how many people told him, man, this guy, Prince Ahmed, he's really, really good. He's really innovative. He's really original. Azriel said it himself. Maybe he didn't take him as seriously as he should have. And maybe that's what led to Azriel not getting that victory in February. Ahmed obviously went in looking for that victory, just didn't have enough in February. But did he figure something out about Azriel in that match? And now in the second match, we'll see what happens. We have promised both men that they will have more time this month than they did in February. So we are hoping that it's not another situation. We're hoping they have more than enough time to complete their match and have a definitive winner.
Right.
But it's going to be, I think this may be the match that can steal the show.
Could be match of the night, right?
Yeah, these two are absolutely incredible. If you have not seen Prince Ahmed, what he's been doing over at Battle Club Pro and a bunch of other places, this man, I mean, every single match you watch is at least 2 or 3 original moves that he just invents in the moment. And I'm just like, how does this even work?
Right.
He's incredible talent. But Azriel, of course, I mean, that man,
he's a legend.
He's
I've seen him in action.
Yeah. An original member of Special K back in the days of Ring of Honor, a group that spawned, the likes of Jay Lethal, that spawned the likes of Azriel, that spawned the likes of Deranged.
Right.
Some great individuals that came out of Ring of Honor. Azriel is still one of the most recognized members of the original Embassy with Prince Nana. So when we talk about, one of the few men that has had the respect and earned the right to wear the legendary robe of our dearly departed, Jimmy Rave. It takes a lot for Prince Nana to trust someone to wear that robe and the responsibility that comes with it. And Azriel has reached that point in his career.
Awesome. Next match, Prolific versus Risen Nasty.
Yeah, one of our tag team tournament semifinal matches. We started our tag team tournament back in April. 8 teams, now down to 4. And this is one of those 2 semifinal matches. We will find out who will compete for the tag team championships in November, on Friday, November the 8th, when we return to the Bronx for our final show of 2024. There will be a brand new, first time ever We Are Wrestling Tag Team Champions crown. This is one of those 2 matches. Is it going to be Prolific? Is it going to be Risen Nasty? And interestingly enough, due to the injury suffered by Ruthless Lala in this match, originally, after they won their first round match back in April, Prolific stated that Tyree Taylor and Ruthless Lala would originally be teaming in their second.
Right.
But unfortunately, due to the injury suffered by Ruthless Lala, she is unable to compete. And so Isaiah Wolf stepping in after teaming with Ruthless Lala in their first round match. So Wolf will now compete in the first and second round of this tag team tournament. Very interesting to see if Ruthless Lala, I know she's been on the mend, her rehab going a lot better than anticipated.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting to see if Prolific gets by Risen Nasty in the semifinal match. If Lala will be ready to possibly compete in the tag team tournament finals in November.
Wow. I'm sure she'll be there that night on Friday.
She is, Papa Dang. In fact, I apologize letting my dog out of the back room.
No worries.
For her whining and messes up our entire broadcast.
It's okay. No worries. I don't know why, but in my last podcast, I was just coughing throughout the whole thing, and now I'm not coughing at all.
In fact, Papa Dank, Ruthless Lala will be at We Are Wrestling this Friday night. In fact, she will be taking my place. I'm going to give you some breaking news that I haven't announced yet to anyone.
Hold on. There it is, breaking news.
There you go, right? This Friday night at We Are Wrestling, I will not be at the commentary table. I am stepping away from full-time We Are Wrestling commentary duties.
Oh, wow.
Due to what occurred back in April. Unfortunately, my tether has been pretty worn out, having to make sure that our shows are running effectively and everything place, as well as dealing with our community partners and our sponsors, as well as making sure that everything with the venue is correct and our fans are
Right.
happy and taken care of, as well as having to sit at the desk and do commentary. And we saw what happened when my mind isn't in the right place. Ray Sanchez ended up hoodwinking me into signing a contract that normally I would have reviewed and read 4 or 5 times over and caught the little rascal in what he was trying to do. But unfortunately, I just had to sign it. I believed what he said. And look what happened. Dan Moff ended up in that We Are Wrestling Grand Championship match, stole that championship away from Rob Killjoy and Jared Diaz, and now is your current defending We Are Wrestling Grand Champion, for better or for worse. But because of that,
Ray's watching you.
Yeah, it's you know, as much as I love commentary, and it is my number one passion. It is the most in professional wrestling is sitting at that commentary table and telling the stories of the matches in the ring. I also understand that my responsibility is to the company of We Are Wrestling and making sure that we are the very best in Bronx wrestling. And with that being said, I will no longer be a full-time commentator at We Are Wrestling. I will still make some appearances at the commentary desk for really big matches or main events or things like that. But full-time, I will not be at the commentary desk. For this show, Ruthless Lala will be taking my place at the commentary table and joining Alphonse Stevens and Sam Laterna on commentary for this show. And I will say this.
Oh, Sam's going to be there?
Yep, Sam Laterna will be there on commentary as well. And I will say that moving forward, I am proud, be able to say that walking away from the commentary table, I leave it in good hands because you're moving forward. Your lead commentary team will be the team of Alphonse Stevens and Sam Laterna as the co-lead commentators at the wrestling table from here on until they decide to retire or get signed somewhere, as they both have the abilities and the right to be on a national televised product. But until that day comes, they are going to be our lead commentary team. I will be making some spot appearances on commentary moving forward, but my days, at least that We Are Wrestling, not in other places, but at least my days of being a full-time commentator as well as trying to run the entire show at We Are Wrestling are done.
Okay. Breaking news right here on Beyond the Barricade. Let's go to the next match. The one and only Jared Diaz versus Rob Killjoy in that Grand Championship No. 1 Contenders match.
Yeah, this was a match back in April that was supposed to determine the We Are Wrestling Grand Champion. Rob Killjoy was our reigning and defending Grand Champion, our champion walking into the match. Jared Diaz had earned a No. 1 Contenders match by Dustin Flash Waller back in February at Don't Call It a Comeback. And this match was supposed to be probably one of the most athletically gifted championship matches that We Are Wrestling would have seen. And unfortunately, thanks to the machinations of one sniveling weasel named Ray Sanchez, Dan Moff ended up finding his way into that match, and Dan Moff walked out as our new We Are Wrestling Grand Champion. So Rob Killjoy obviously had a grievance. Rob Killjoy obviously had a case as the former champion to receive a rematch for the championship that he didn't lose. He was not pinned. Jared Diaz, of course, also had a grievance and had a right to go out for essentially, as Jared Diaz put it, stealing his opportunity to become the We Are Wrestling Grand Champion. And honestly, I sat down and I told both men, you both have an incredibly solid case why you should Dan Moff the We Are Wrestling Grand Championship. And I'm not going to choose between the two of you. I'm not going to choose Rob Killjoy over Jared Diaz. I'm not going to choose Jared Diaz over Rob Killjoy. We're going to do it the way we know how. This Friday night, you two will battle it out to become the number one contender. The person who walks out of that match as the winner will get first shot at Dan Moff in November. So I'm telling it right now. Whoever wins this match
Right.
in November, on November the 8th in the Bronx, New York, will face either Dan Moff or Yaya, if he's able to dethrone Dan Moff. Whomever the We Are Wrestling Grand Champion is in November will face off against the winner, Garrett Diaz versus Rob Killjoy. No questions asked. There are no other opponents. It is signed already. It will be the champion versus either Killjoy or Diaz in November.
Wow, that's great news, man. That's good stuff. All right, let's go to the next match. The Rep versus Sammy Chaos and Jasmine Howe.
Yeah. Our second tag team tournament semifinal match, and a little bit of a change here. So the Rep defeated oh man, why am I completely forgetting this in the moment? Back in April.
It's been a long day.
It has been a very, very long day. But back in April, the Rep defeated Brick City in the first round of the We Are Wrestling Tag Team Tournament and moved on to the semifinals. And Sammy Chaos, with her tag team partner Caitlin Marie, aka Survival of the Thickest, defeated the Golden Glovers to move on to the second round of the tag team tournament. This match was supposed to be Sammy Chaos and Caitlin Marie versus the Rep. Unfortunately, we received communication that Caitlin Marie would not be able to make it.
Oh, no.
Something came up. She was not very clear to us what happened. So I reached out to Sammy Chaos and I said, hey, what's going on with Caitlin? We need you to find a partner. Sammy yelled at me for about 15 minutes and repeated multiple times that she didn't need another partner. She'll fight the Rep all by herself.
Sounds like Sammy.
And while I believe that Sammy Chaos could march into that ring and put up a fight against the Rep, I am also not in a position to want to put Sammy Chaos in harm's way. I'm not in a position to want to put Sammy Chaos in a situation where she is overwhelmed by two opponents. So I told her, you need to find a partner or the match is off. And we did find one. And enter the Dragon of Malice, Jasmine Howe, who will be teaming with Sammy Chaos in this semifinal matchup. It's been signed off by the Rep. The Rep was fine with it. Well, they said they were fine with it, and then I saw what they said yesterday, and I don't know if they really were fine with it.
I don't think they're fine.
And earlier today, we got clarification as to what happened with Miss Caitlin Marie. Unfortunately, it's come to find out, it seems as if Caitlin Marie has a back waxing appointment that day with a ultra exclusive back waxer from Russia.
What?
And listen, I get it. Listen, my the guy who cuts my hair, it's very hard to get an appointment with him. He's really, really good. My tattoo artist, who's incredible, it's hard to get an appointment with him. So you got to get in when you can, right? And young guys like us, Papa Dank, we've probably seen a couple of chiropractors in our life. When you find a good one, their schedule is pretty tight to get an appointment.
It is.
So you got to take it. Yeah.
It is. I think I'm due for a visit.
Yeah. So I get it. I'm a little bit upset that, it just so happened to coincide with a tag team tournament match.
How ironic.
But, I don't know if maybe Caitlin's a little scared of the Rep. I mean, the Rep, no pun intended, they have a Rep.
They do have a Rep.
Toughest tag teams in all of professional wrestling, if not just in the Northeast. The Rep is a team that could probably go on television.
Our mics are muffled. I don't know. Are they?
The Rep is very much a tag team that can go on national television right now and face off face off against any of the top tag teams. I would put the rep up against the Young Bucks. I'd put the rep up against FTR. I'd put the rep up against the Acclaim. I'd put them up against the House of Black. Hell, I'd put them up against the Creed brothers. I'd put them up against the Street Profits. I'd put them in the ring with the Bloodline.
Right.
I think these two men in the 10 years that 11 years I've been in this business, these two men have what it takes to go toe to toe with the greatest tag teams that you see on your television screen around the world. So Jasmine, a lot of respect to her for stepping in for this. Caitlin and I will have a talk. And if somehow Sami Chaos and Jasmine Howe are able to get past the rep and move on to the finals, we will have to figure out whether or not it will be Sami and Jasmine competing for those tag team championships in the finals, or if Caitlin will return to compete for those tag team championships along with Sami Chaos. A lot of moving parts there, but still got to get past that match. It would have been tough for Sami and Caitlin. Great fight.
Right.
Probably sneak out a victory. It's going to be very interesting to see if two people who've never teamed together before, and Sami and Jasmine, can do the same.
All right, next match. Jorge Santi versus Pedro Dones.
17 years making, Papa Dank.
Really?
You remember we were young, when we were growing up, there was always that guy or that person who taught us something.
Yeah.
And we always wanted to make it our business to what? One day be better than the person who taught us.
Person. Right.
Yeah. Jorge Santi, 17 years ago, Gleason, New York. Jorge Santi helped train a young Pedro Dones first made his entry into this business. In fact, Jorge Santi was Pedro Dones' first match.
Wow.
And now 17 years ago, Jorge Santi hasn't missed a beat. I remember watching Jorge Santi when he was making his mark in this business in a company called WWE, Family Wrestling Entertainment, a company that the Young Bucks, Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, Adrenaline Express, which people now know.
Right. VSK.
EJ Risk and VSK.
That's right. EJ Risk, now known as Eric James.
Eric James. Where the EJ comes from.
That's right.
These were the guys that were headlining places like FWE, but Jorge Santi was quickly becoming a household name in that company. This was a man who stepped in the ring against guys like Jigsaw, against guys like Bandito Jr., and all these great stars, and took some time off from pro wrestling, came back, and hasn't missed a beat. Has aged like fine wine. And Pedro Dones has done the same. In fact, making an incredible name for himself up in Worcester, Massachusetts, as part of the open roster. Right. And as much as that roster up in Worcester is cyclical, there are a couple of people who every single Thursday, every single week are up in Worcester. Pedro Dones is one of those guys and one of those individuals. There's a lot, because to be a regular in a place that constantly rotates its roster means you've done something incredible in the eyes of that management team. But for the first time in 17 years, teacher and student will meet in We Are Wrestling. If that's not big enough, Pedro Dones is from the Bronx. Pedro Dones is a teacher in the Bronx. He's an educator of young minds. In fact, a New York City Teacher of the Year award winner.
Wow.
This man has won accolades in everything that he's done. And now he's going after probably the biggest accolade for him right now. Defeating Jorge Santi. Defeating the man who trained him.
Wow.
Can he do it in front of his hometown crowd? Imagine going back to school and your student saying, "Oh, Mr. Dones, heard you lost your match to your teacher."
Right. Man, this is going to be quite the match, man. I know Matt Awesome is ready for it. match I want to see, says Matt.
Yeah, listen, Matt. Matt is a student of the game.
Yes, he
Matt's a
is.
student of the game. That's one thing I love about Matt. I've known Matt Awesome for over 10 years. I remember first learning to roll around in the ring and learning how to be a professional wrestler. Him and
Right.
I ran the ropes together. Him and I took bumps together. Him and I did things together in a wrestling ring back when I thought I was, still athletic enough to be a pro wrestler.
Mhm.
Um, but Matt Awesome is a student of the game. There's not a time where me and Matt Awesome aren't in a car somewhere where he's not watching a wrestling match, whether it's his match or somebody else, and breaking it down. There's not a time where Matt Awesome isn't sending his match out to somebody that he respects, saying, "Hey, could you give me feedback on this? How can I make this better?"
That's the best way to do it. 100%. I always ask for feedback as well. All right. This is the last match we're going to go over. This is it. The We Are Wrestling Grand Championship match. Dan Maff versus Yahya.
Yeah, listen,
Wow.
Moff,
He's massive. Look at him. Holy cow. Yikes.
and that picture doesn't even do him justice.
Yeah, I know. I've seen him in person.
Moff, let me start here. I give Dan Moff the Fighters on Friday night. They call Yahya the Gifted One, and they do it for a reason. There's a reason why a young man like Yahya gets the praise and respect that he gets from luminaries in the Southern Territory because of how good and how talented he is. The young man has a very, very, very high ceiling, and he hasn't even begun to scratch that ceiling yet. This man is the Battle Club Pro franchise champion. This man has been a champion in multiple different companies, and he has been a day one guy in We Are Wrestling. He took a couple of shows off after losing that incredible street fight to Chris Barton in our first show in the Bronx. Welcome to the Bronx back in 2022. And so it's been 2 years since we've seen Yahya in We Are Wrestling. But he's coming back with a vengeance, going right after Dan Moff. Yahya's a Bronx kid, born in the Bronx. First time he ever wrestled in the Bronx was for We Are Wrestling. First time I gave him a wrestle in the Bronx, back in the early days of BCW, bringing him back for We Are Wrestling. He's got a hometown crowd in front of him and trying to add a second championship to his list. But now that that's over and done with, let me just say this. I've known Dan Moff for over 10 years. Back in late 2012, early 2013, I first started making my way into this incredible professional wrestling. And at first, I stepped into a ring and trained. I thought I had what it took to be a professional wrestler. And not that I didn't, but the ends of my life meant that I couldn't. And I found other wrestling, photography, managing, ring announcing, commentary. Fit my skill set a lot better. Yeah. And I met Dan Moff very early on. And Dan Moff is one of those OGs. Dan Moff, Low Key, Homicide, Buffy, Azriel. The list goes on and on of men and women that I can name that paved the way in the New York and New Jersey scene. And it takes a lot to earn the respect of those men and women. One of the men that I've earned the respect of was Dan Moff. Dan Moff and I have been friends for over 10 years. Dan Moff has opened doors for me in professional wrestling. He has told people, this kid's good, give him a shot. And I've always had a lot of love and respect for Dan Moff. And Dan Moff said to me, he said, Pete, when you move We Are Wrestling to New York, I want to be a part of what you're doing out there, right? I want to make sure that I helped make We Are Wrestling a great company. I said, Moff, you got it. And back in April, Moff threw 10 years of respect, 10 plus years of love, 10 plus years of admiration right in my face. When he flipped off the entire Bronx crowd, 300 plus fans in St. Helena's. When he flipped me off
Right.
in front of those. When he went to the back and threw that grand championship to the ground like it wasn't worth anything. The symbol of this company. And when he told me things that I will not repeat here on this podcast behind the scenes after that match, through 10 plus years of respect and admiration down the drain and right in my face. I wish I could sit here today and say I'm proud to have Dan Moff as the reigning and defending We Are Wrestling Grand Champion. From a performer standpoint, hell of a champion. From a wrestling standpoint, he is a bad, bad man.
Right.
And it's going to take a lot to take that championship away from him. But from a pride standpoint, from a respect standpoint, I cannot sit here and say that I am proud to see the We Are Wrestling Grand Championship on the shoulder, around the waist of Dan Moff because of what he has turned into. A New York hating individual. He just won the Warriors of Wrestling Heavyweight Championship out in Staten Island this past weekend.
Wow.
But what did he do? He needed to put up a social media post flipping off all the fans and saying, F New York. I hate New York. Well, Mom, I hope that all that vitriol and all that hate that you have for New York gets pushed back to you this Friday night. Because the longer that Dan Moff is the We Are Wrestling Grand Champion, the harder it is going to be for We Are Wrestling to be a positive impact in the Bronx in New York. Because when I got corporate sponsors looking at me, I want to invest in this company. When I've got people who want to, put their stamp on this company, they're like, this guy, your champion, your top person, saying F New York, saying screw the fans, screw this company. Why do we want to get involved with you when this guy is basically telling us to go F ourselves?
All right.
So I think anybody with Dan Moff is in for a fight. I know Yaya's in for a fight. One person I know who's going to step in that ring ready for that fight. It is Yaya, and I very much look forward to this match. I like to usually not be biased. Papa Denk, I usually try to be very, very straight and down the middle. And when I tell you, I am crossing my fingers and I am praying every night that Yaya walks away the We Are Wrestling Grand Champion this Friday night. Because I don't know what the We Are Wrestling Grand Championship picture looks like if this version of Dan Moff is still our grand champion come November 8th.
This Friday night, St. Helena's Church in the Boogie Down Bronx. The bridge is over. We are wrestling. Let's go.
Papa
Let's
Dank,
get your tickets.
One last thing.
Yes, sir.
November 8th is our next show. We have a big announcement that will be made live at the Bridge is Over this Friday night concerning a first time ever talent appearance for November 8th. And I'll spice it up for you just a little bit. November 8th, Friday, November 8th is our next show. Papa Dink, you know what's on Saturday, November 9th?
Of course I do. It's the big event.
Where at? In Long Island, New York.
Long Island, Brentwood.
I am proud to say that We Are Wrestling will also be making its big event debut on November 9th
Wow.
2024. And that same individual who will be making their first time ever appearance in We Are Wrestling
Uh,
on November 8th will be our guest of honor at the big event, November 9th. And all I can say,
okay.
Papa Denk, the only tidbit I'll give to everybody out there in internet land, this is a WWE 90s icon.
Wow. Big
And they
news
will
coming
be
up.
making an appearance for the first time ever at We Are Wrestling. In fact, a very rare New York appearance in and
Really?
of itself for this person on November 8th. They will also be wrestling on November 8th at We Are Wrestling's final show of the 2024 calendar year, and
That's
will be
awesome.
our guest of honor at our big event debut the next day.
Good stuff. Now, I will also be at Big Event, returning once again to Big Event. And we've already announced one guest, and more guests come.
Oh, listen, Papa Deck, you better have that microphone at the ready because you're going to need, I can guarantee you,
Right.
you're going to be running over to the We Are Wrestling table to grab yourself an exclusive interview with this person.
I,
And
I
everyone
got
will find out live on November
I got
8th.
my cardio in.
Yeah, and if you're not there live on November 8th, make sure you pay attention to the We Are Wrestling Instagram, the
Uh,
We Are Wrestling Twitter, the We Are Wrestling Facebook, all your social media outlets, because we'll be announcing it general public the very
awesome.
next day.
So are you saying that you're giving me an invite to actually do like a shoot, like mini interview? Is that what you're telling me?
Hey, listen, Pop, as long as that line is not out the door like I expect it to be for this
Gotcha,
person,
gotcha.
if we've got the space for it, Papa Denk, you've got an exclusive.
Appreciate you, brother. This Friday night, make sure you go to St. Helena's Church and come support We Are Wrestling. Great stack card. A lot of my pals are in this one. Go support them, please. Show up. Buy your tickets now. Worst case scenario, go out the door. Cash money, honey, right there. Come
There you
in.
go.
See a great show because I heard the last show was amazing. So
It
just throw that
was,
out
and
there.
listen, while you're there, pick up one of our incredible We Are Wrestling shirts designed by from our friends and partners at From the Bronx. You can even
Wow.
get yourself a We Are Wrestling logo
I love
shirt
it.
that will be on sale as well. And in November, we'll be debuting our newest We Are Wrestling shirt. It's going to be quite the impact. Again, also designed and created by our friends over at From the Bronx. Also, want to give a big shout out to Smacks Delivery NYC, the
Smacks.
official sponsors of our We Are Wrestling Tag Team Championships. Papa Denk, they're in production
Awesome.
right now. They're going to be showing up in November. They're beautiful. They're shiny. It's great. I think they may give the Grand Championship a run for its money as the
I'm
most beautiful
excited.
championship in wrestling.
I might have to pop through on November 8th and come visit.
There you go.
All right. Let everybody know where they can follow you and where they can follow We Are Wrestling.
Well, you can follow me at Pete Rosado 87 on Twitter and at Pete Rosado on Facebook. But for all your We Are Wrestling news, you're going to want to check out We Are Wrestling 1 on Twitter, We Are Wrestling 1 on Instagram, and We Are Wrestling on Facebook. Make sure you like, subscribe, catch up with all of our posts. We drop all of our exclusive announcements there,
100%.
including all the backstage footage and interviews dropped directly after the show. So you can catch up not only what happens in the ring, but out the ring. And if you can't be there this Friday night, for some reason you can't make it out to the Bronx, New York. Maybe you live in California. Maybe you live in Houston, Texas. Maybe you're out in Florida. Hell, maybe you're across the pond in the UK. Maybe you were at the Bash at Berlin in Germany and you want to know how to watch We Are Wrestling. Well, guess what? You can go right on titlematchnetwork.com and sign up for $9.99. You can watch We Are Wrestling this Friday night streaming live on the Title Match Network. And with
Wow.
that, you'd be able to access the entire Title Match Network lineup, including Mission Pro Wrestling, Battle Club Pro,
Wow.
Ladies Night Out, all women's wrestling down in the Carolinas, including AML, Wrestle Cage, shoot interviews, and of course, all your We Are Wrestling content living and breathing on the Title Match Wrestling Network. Sign up now, $9.99 a month, $100 for the whole year. You get a month free. That's just a great deal right there. So if you
That's
can't
awesome.
make it out to the Bronx for whatever reason, make sure you sign up, Title Match Network. And last big shout out, Mike Johnson, PW Insider. Love you, brother. Thank you so much.
Awesome, awesome. All right, as for me, I'm coming back tomorrow night with PJ Savage. We'll talk
Woo!
about like city guys. PJ Savage for Hispanic Heritage Month continues as we're both Hispanic in the business as well. And the one and only Dynasty champion, Johan Nara, coming up. And then,
You was reached out to We Are Wrestling. Might be making an appearance maybe sometime soon.
okay, all right, all right. And then I have Tony Cini coming on this Friday. My pal, Tony Cini.
There you go.
Ooh,
Gotta
who
have
else
the
I got?
Italians now.
Look at that. I have Steel Cross from PKA Wrestling. Talk
There you
about
go.
down south. This is where it's at. PK Wrestling as well, down south. And my pal is returning to my podcast towards the end of the month. The one and only center of attention, Brittany Brooks, as she's got an announcement to make.
Cannot wait for this young lady to come back from injury. I can guarantee you, as soon as she is ready and back in action, we are going to be moving swiftly to bring Brittany Brooks to We Are Wrestling.
There you
Cannot
go.
wait for her to come
You
back.
could talk. She'll be hanging out around here soon, so you'll be able to talk to her.
There we go.
We'll talk after the podcast. All right, everybody. Everybody have a good night. Pete, just hold on for a second. I'll be back